One of my favorite Pittsburgh traditions is the Dollar Bank Three Rivers Arts Festival. You've got 10 whole days of free art and music downtown in the Cultural District, plus some great food and drinks on site if you like a little snack while you browse the vendors. The fest runs from noon to 9 p.m., May 31st to June 9th. And this year, there's a special treat, a mobile circus troupe that mixes acrobats with a beer and food truck. I don't understand, but I can't wait to see it. Cirque Kickass will be performing at 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. on June 8th and 9th, so mark your calendars. You can learn more about the festival at trustarts.org/TRAF.
Today on CityCast Pittsburgh. At long last, the city is announcing which public pools will be open this summer. Mayor Ed Gainey is hosting a press conference later today to tell us how many of the city's 18 pools are going to open on June 15th and which ones will stay closed. And lucky for you, we are joined today by the master of the Pittsburgh Pool Bingo card because she's been to them, she's graded them, and she's ranked them so you can get the most from your poolside summer in Pittsburgh. It's Monday, June 3rd. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. Jill Turner, welcome back to CityCast Pittsburgh.
Hi, thank you so much for having me back again. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're so happy to talk to you always about pools. The city pools are almost back for 2024. How are you personally feeling? Are you ready? Are you a summertime gal?
I am not a summertime gal, but that is part of why I love the pools, because I hate being hot. So they help me cool down.
That's one way to do it. Well, in case anyone listening is new to the show, we talked to Jill, of course, about this last summer. Since then, I've seen a story, I don't know if you did, where the city says that we're going to get, allegedly, at least 15 pools this summer. So 15 of 18. Still no word on which ones, though. I'm curious where your bets are, like what you think we're going to get, and maybe more importantly, which ones you don't think we're going to get this year.
Well, I like your use of the word allegedly there, because in true Pittsburgh fashion, they're kind of leaving it to the last minute. But if I were a betting person, I would bet, of course, that, as I call it, the Patrick Mahomes of pools, Highland Park Pool will be opening this year. It's just, that juggernaut has too much momentum behind it, too much capacity to, as I said last year when Bloomfield was closed, house, sort of the pool refugees from there, if we could call it. I'd also guess that Moore Pool in Brookline will be open, because that's another big one, as well as West Penn Pool opened last year. And I think that was a good little pocket in the city. Sadly, I do not anticipate that Bloomfield Pool will be opening this year.
That's shocking, because they've been working on maintenance on that thing for a while.
Listen, I'm not the City Parks Works Authority here, but the last time I went over the Bloomfield Bridge, which was pretty recently, it still just looked like a concrete hole without any liner in it. So
no.
Unless a miracle happens in the next 2 weeks and they get that liner in there super fast, I unfortunately anticipate that we're going to be missing out on that key see and be seen spot in Pittsburgh's Little Italy.
Well, and there's, the city's been making changes for a while now. They say it's because of a lifeguard shortage. Like, for example, the pool over in Riverview Park, they have to share lifeguards and time and space with Sue Murray. They're both in the north side, but like over a fairly large distance if you're traveling by foot or by bike.
Yeah, I would say the kind of trifecta there, if you will, is Sue Murray, Riverview, and also Jack Stack Pool. Jack Stack has that complimentary view of the other side of the observatory that Riverview Pool has. Jack Stack Pool was unfortunately closed for a long while last year due to a shooting incident that happened there. But the Sue Murray and Riverview kind of picked up that slack. But you're right, they aren't entirely walkable to one another. So if you have, access to one of them, you better be able to, if you can walk to one of them, hopefully you'll be able to drive to the other or take a bus.
Yeah. Well, you've seen this lifeguard gig in action all over the city. What do you think? Does it look like a good job for, mostly it's young people?
Yes, I would say, I mean, I have to say, and I think I mentioned this the last time that I was on CityCast about talking about the pools. I always think lifeguards are the coolest people. I'm almost 37 years old now, and I still think they're super cool. Just the action that they have wrapping, the whistle around their finger and everything is great.
There's like a solid, like, Dazed and Confused vibe to lifeguards at basically like every single pool ever,
Yeah, they definitely, they have BLE, big lifeguard energy. Yeah. I think, the signs that I've seen up, recruiting lifeguards for employment, the payment it starts at a reasonable rate, especially if you're a young person. This isn't the $7.50 an hour job that I had when I was in high school.
Yeah. I think the range I saw was $16 to $19, which is like way better than I thought.
Yeah, it's way better. And I think part of the reason, there too, the reason the pools are opening until the middle of the month of June is because they're waiting for kids to get out of school, because that's the majority of their workforce. So,
but you have to be a city resident, which I understand, because you want kids that grew up in the neighborhood too. But I also think might be a little silly if you have a shortage situation.
Exactly. And I think being a city resident, as long as you're a resident, of course, that's good. But one thing I noticed last year, especially when pools started closing down at the end of the season, as kids started going back to school, that city residency requirement, you could be at one pool in Carrick, but actually live all the way up in Brighton Heights or something like that. There were a lot of lifeguards that I noticed that really had shifts all over the city at all different pools. So even though some of them seemed like they were locals to the neighborhood, they were on a first name basis with a lot of the kids there. Depending on where the shortages are and where you need to be, you could be going far afield from your neighborhood.
Yeah. I mean, as you're kind of like floating through these neighborhoods, because, obviously I know you're not there all the time.
Floating, good pool reference.
We try over here. What do you think it means to some of these communities, like when they don't have their pool for like a year, for 2 years, for 3 years, when it like continues on like that?
That's a really great question, and kind of goes towards the change in the categories that I did between 2022 and 2023 in terms of accessibility to pools. I know a lot of people think of accessibility as things like, oh, could I get into the pool if I was a person using a wheelchair? Can I get to the bathroom, like ADA requirements? But also, neighborhood accessibility, commuter accessibility. I think a good example of this is just sort of the neighborhood back and forth that's been happening for the past few years with the Sue Murray pool.
Yeah, that's the one in front of like the Elks Lodge and the Giant Eagle there.
Yes, yeah.
On the north side.
Correct.
Right before you cross into like North Shore territory.
Yeah. And that pool, I will say, it's a great location, but it is in dire need of some TLC, just in terms of, probably the filtration system, the liner. But there are so many kids that live in that neighborhood that might not have access to central air conditioning in their homes. There's that large apartment building that's right there that a lot of the neighborhood residents were saying that the kids were out causing trouble, and they needed the pool to be open as a place for people to go, to literally cool down, because heat makes people go crazy.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Well, let's talk about the pools and your rubric, because it is, as ever, very, very intense. I think you've adjusted it since the last time we talked. First, tell us about your favorite, not why, but just your favorite pools from last season.
Yeah, I'd say my favorite pools from last season, the pool I frequented the most was definitely Highland Park, because that was the closest to my house. But I love Ream Pool in Mount Washington, as well as McGee Pool. I always find very charming over in Greenfield.
Okay, well, let's get to the why then. So the rubric, how they were graded. Walk us through it, and also like kind of how you, I guess, scope out all of these things, because I imagine it really does consume a lot of your pool time.
It does. I've actually been asked a few times if I was a social worker at the pool, because I was walking around with my clipboard. So I realized I kind of needed to keep that down so people didn't think, I was going to like come in and shut their pool down.
So you have big social worker energy at the pool. That's great.
I have a master's in public health. I just give that off. But a few of the big changes that happened from 2022 to 2023 were the addition of 2 new categories. One, as I already mentioned, was the accessibility category. And I kind of felt a little bit like sheepish that I didn't include that in my first go round in 2022, but that made a lot of really big differences in where pools fell in the rankings. I also included another category called infrastructure and upkeep. So in addition to, just like general cleanliness, taking a look at the actual structure, how it looks, are there perimeter fences that are crumbling? Is there silt coming out of the pool filters? Is there a tear in the liner or a gap in it? So those are a few things that actually really helped a lot of pools, but also hurt some pools as well.
And that's in addition to a rubric that included things like just the size of the pool, how much grass they had, whether it was in proximity to restaurants and bars, if it had kiddie areas. You really do the most with this rubric every year.
Yes. You could tell I'm a very data-driven person.
No doubt. Yeah. So I guess how did adding that accessibility category maybe shift what you found last year to this year? One in particular I'm thinking of is Riverview Park, and I don't know for sure, but I think I know why.
Yes. So I love Riverview Pool, but if I were, a person with any sort of mobility limitations, that is a very difficult pool to access.
That staircase is intense.
Staircase up from the street is very intense. If you want to park down by that parking lot that's closer to the bottom of the observatory park, you have to go on this blacktop, almost sort of like, I don't want to say goat path. That sounds very dramatic, but a path that it doesn't have a guardrail by it. If you aren't, an able-bodied person, I think that would be pretty hard to navigate. Once you get to the entrance of the pool itself, there is, a ramp that takes you down. And once you're in there, of course, it seems pretty accessible, but actually getting to the pool itself is a little bit difficult for that one.
Yeah. I mean, it dropped from 5th in 2022 to second to last in 2023. Like, that's a big difference.
Yeah, that's a huge difference. And I think I can anticipate your next question, which is on the other side of that coin. Pool, which came in dead last in 2022. I gave them the Glow Up Award superlative because they got the bronze medal of the Pulitzer Prize in 2023, just because of, the accessibility and the infrastructure and upkeep. The adjacent, I want to say like athletic or community building. I don't know what the proper term is for that. That had recently been renovated. There were a lot more additions for things like ramps for people that use wheelchairs to use, as well as just the general flatness of everything to get into the locker room. So that goes to show that, I think it really fell down just because I think of kind of scudgy bathrooms in 2022 and not being walkable to a local commercial district. But when you factor in accessibility and also infrastructure, it really shows that, I'm the kind of person, I love to go out after I go to the pool, grab a bite to eat, grab a beer. But most people that are going to the pool are neighborhood residents that, want to cool off. They're kids, they're under 21. They aren't worried about being too close to a bar. So I think it more accurately reflects how most people use pools.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned your Glow Up superlative. Walk us through some of the other ones who ranked the highest in different ways last year.
Yeah. So Raiders' favorite from this past year actually switched over to Ream Pool. I just love that pool. Their lifeguards call themselves the Ream team. They had a cork board with their pictures and little bios about themselves on it that was so cute. And it's adjacent to a community garden that just really had, a lot of beautiful flowering plants. And it, like I said, overall, it was just very charming. Of course, Highland Park, the Patrick Mahomes of pools, won first place again because you can't really argue just with how much that pool has to offer.
It's enormous. It's got a lot there. There's usually a food truck. There's a tree, importantly, a little bit of shade.
That tree is Travis Kelce right there.
Dedicated Kansas City fan here with the Pittsburgh Pools references.
Actually not. I just find them fascinating. I would say cleanest bathrooms was Banksville Pool. That was a pool that hadn't been open in 2022. And that's up Crane Avenue behind where that Eaton Park is on Banksville Road. Those bathrooms were spick and span. Let's see, what were some of our other superlatives? Best new pool, which was a category for pools that hadn't been open the previous year, was West Penn. I love that pool. It's small, but it offers such a beautiful view of like over into Millvale in the River Valley. So
yeah. And what about See and Be Seen, since Bloomfield hasn't really been around for a while?
So see and be seen. I mean, I did mention this in the article that I had written for the Pittsburgh City paper, but I kind of anticipated that most of the, I think the pool refugees, as I called them from Bloomfield earlier in this podcast, would kind of go over to West Penn, and I'm sure some of them did, but it really turned out to be Highland Park because I think they just have the capacity to like take on, additional people and really not make it feel like crowded. And also, going there, I have to say, I have a neighbor friend that I would go with a lot. And every time I would go there, she would see someone she knew. I would see someone that I knew. It was just very community oriented, but you would see a lot of families, but you would also see a lot of people that were, kind of out to go do their summer networking a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what will you be looking for maybe over the next few weeks? I assume you are taking on your own challenge yet again.
Yes, I am. If for no other reason than I feel this small project that I started in 2022 has oddly picked up a lot of steam, and I have people that don't even live in Pittsburgh that like to follow my Instagram account. I mean, of course,
it is solid. You have some beautiful photos, if nothing else.
With an iPhone, everybody's a photographer.
I'll take it.
Of course, I'm looking forward to seeing which pools will be open this year. And I'm looking forward to seeing, if there are any sort of surprising infrastructural updates that might push a few pools ahead in the rankings. Like I said, going to Sue Murray last year, that pool pretty obviously needed some TLC, but it's a beautiful historical area. So I'm hoping to see some hopeful improvements there. I'd love to see, some of the pools that were opened in 2023, but not in 2022 remain open. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping to see, they said 15 pools, but knock on wood, assuming that it'll be.
They said at least 15 pools. I think that was Mayor Gainey's hopeful estimate.
I'm thinking it'll probably be the same 15 from last year, but if we can get to 16 and add in another pool, I'm all for exploring the city and seeing what other locations in their pools have to offer.
Well, Jill, thank you so much. I hope we get to see you poolside.
Yeah, I will welcome anybody I see that might happen to recognize me at the pool with my clipboard.
Yeah, you need a placard or a sign or something, like officially, like at Jill Rates Pools.
A little badge for my bathing suit.
Yeah, absolutely. Please make that happen. That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. And guess what, friends? We are clairvoyant because minutes after ending this conversation with Jill, the city told us they're going to do it. They're making the announcement later today. And I think all you Bloomfield Beach fans, including Jill, are going to like it because Mayor Gainey is hosting the whole shindig from Ella Street. I really hope he does it under the blue mushroom. Please make that happen, Mayor Gainey. Yins, make sure you're subscribed to our Hey Pittsburgh newsletter for the full list of pools tomorrow. We'll be back in the morning with more news from around the city. Talk to you soon.
Good job holding your coughs in.
Oh my God. I asked if you were ready and clearly I am not. Listen to this.
Yeah.
I know.
These allergies are killing me this summer.
The pollinating. It's intense.
The pollinating.